So I come into contact about once a fortnight with a judge, and I can't tell you how I come into contact with him, because I don't think he'd appreciate that none. Because, like, let's say for instance it's in a pub, he would probably be quite inclined not to know that people would know where he goes, and we naturally talk about things that he wants a certain level of like freedom when he talks to me, so it's got to be completely off the record, because otherwise if it was on the record he wouldn't be able to speak. He wouldn't be able to speak and he wouldn't be able to do anything. So he talks to me just like completely off the record. So I would never share a conversation that we would have, because we would lose that like conviviality, we would lose that relationship that we have if it was on the record. But I asked him if I could share one discussion that I had with him. There was a guy who lost a Nintendo Switch on a bus in Tiverton, and I took every effort to try and return this guy's Switch to him. So I went to, I put it on all the Facebook groups about this Switch, and what do you know, I actually ended up, like, the guy came forward. And that's the thing, like, when it comes to like losing something, the technical letter of the law is that if somebody loses something, it's not 14 days, it's not 28 days, it's as long as you've taken reasonable steps to locate the owner. Once the owner is then, like, if the owner hasn't then been located, it's yours. It's yours. So I took reasonable steps, and what do you know, I found the owner, so I had to return it to him. And the guy was actually quite surprised that I'd returned it. He was like really shocked. And I thought, and I said to him, like, about society is like a numbers game. And I said this to the judge, and I asked him if I've got this right, and he said, yes, you have, you've got it exactly right. Society is like a numbers game, in so much as if you've got a 100 people, if you've got 100 people, out of those 100 people, 90 will always do the right thing. In any given situation, even when you think that they wouldn't, 90 will always do the right thing. But when it comes to the other 10, and this is the interesting part, the other 10 will not always do the right thing. And the other 10 can be split into two groups. 9 out of those 10 will do the wrong thing if they think they can get away with it. If they think that they can, if they think that there would be no consequences, and if presented with the opportunity to do something wrong and to do something naughty, they would do it. The other one person, and we're talking about 1 out of 100 here, 1 out of 100 will be hell-bent on causing mischief and misery and chaos. You will always have that one person out of every 100. And I asked him about this theory, and he said, you know what, I think you've got it exactly right. Because he said, when I look at crime, he said, I could basically say that 99% of the crime in this country is committed by 1% of the population. And he said, I think I'm over exaggerating there. He said, I think the actual statistics say something like 2% are responsible for 80% of the crime, but that a large portion of people, a large portion of the amount of crime is by a very small amount of the population. And this is quite key, because it's like when you're out there in the world and you're speaking to people and you naturally presume the worst of the person opposite, because we always naturally do presume the worst, the statistics don't match that. So when you're speaking to somebody, it's usually a safe bet to assume that they are in the 90% of the population rather than in that 10% of the population that would do it if they had the chance, or worse, the 1% that would do it anyway. And I think that that's, a pretty solid rule for life, is that we're inclined naturally to believe that the person that we're talking to is going to be terrible. And it's just a natural assumption, and it's a natural assumption to assume that most of the people in the world are good. 90% of the people out there have no ill will, have no malice aforethought, have no malevolence. And it's important to recognise that, so that you don't shut yourself off to all of those people. And this is coming from a guy who has seen the worst of the worst. And I'm not going to tell you about the worst of the worst that he told me about, partly because he doesn't want me to, but he has seen the worst of the worst, and he naturally just says, that's his opinion, that he has seen the worst of the worst. 9 out of 10 people you would never fall out with. It's just the 1 out of 10 that you might need to be a bit cautious of, and the 1 out of 100 that you absolutely need to steer clear of.